What's up, fellas? In the first of today's videos, we're going to be taking a look at LaMarcus Aldridge and the San Antonio Spurs. There was a report that came out yesterday that I tried to talk about, and I've recorded this video now. This is the third or fourth time I've done this. And LaMarcus Aldridge essentially has played his last game for the San Antonio Spurs. They have basically decided that it's best for them to part ways. He, I guess, doesn't want to be in San Antonio more. San Antonio realizes that his talents are probably better utilized elsewhere. They've got other guys they would rather play over him, and he does have some value. So they're going to either look to trade him, or maybe even if it comes down to it, buy him out. They seem confident that they're going to be able to trade him, but that's what we're going to talk about in the first of today's videos. And in the second video later today, we're going to be doing a similar thing. We're going to be talking about PJ Tucker, who, once again, the team and the player have decided that they're going to part ways. It's now him, Andre Drummond, as well as LaMarcus Aldridge that have all kind of decided that they don't want to be with their current team anymore, and those players we're going to be talking about today. But in this video, it's going to be LaMarcus Aldridge. But really quickly before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. I upload twice a day, every single day on this channel, so it's the most consistent NBA content on YouTube. If you're new here, what's up? My name is Tucker. You can also leave a like rating on the videos as well, and you can check me out at various socials in a Linktree link down in the description below. With those things said, let's talk about LaMarcus Aldridge and the San Antonio Spurs. So, as I said, it was reported that he's played his last game with the team. They're not going to play him anymore this year, and they're going to find a resolution before the trade deadline, which is a few weeks away. Either a trade, or if it comes down to it, a buyout scenario. Now, Aldridge isn't a bad player, but he's also not, all-star level LaMarcus Aldridge anymore. He's, he can score a little bit, he can shoot a little bit, but there's nothing great about his game. I still think that he can contribute, but he's not going to be someone that's going to be a significant difference maker, which is why I'm kind of questioning their confidence level here and their ability to trade Aldridge. They seem like they are fully confident that someone is going to trade for LaMarcus Aldridge and they're not going to have to buy him out. I have questions about that. Now, the reason why it would work and why it would make sense is, one, he's a good player, and he does have value. In comparison to Drummond, who appears as though he's going to be bought out, and Blake Griffin, who did get bought out, there's two significant differences. One, with the Griffin thing, he's on an expiring contract, so it's a little bit easier to move him than it would be with the Blake deal, where he's having injury issues and he has multiple years still left on his deal. Whereas for Aldridge, he's an expiring contract that's easier to move. And for Drummond, I think Aldridge's game just fits in better with certain rosters. His ability to space the floor a little bit. He's not just an in the paint big man. And yes, he has issues defensively, but so does Drummond. And offensively, I think it's just a little bit of a cleaner fit for Aldridge with certain teams. So those would be some reasons as to why he would be traded. And as I said, the report is that they are fully confident that he will be moved rather than be bought out. So if that's the case, and there will not be a buyout, what teams could LaMarcus Aldridge possibly go to? Well, there's 3 or 4 teams here that I think are really interesting, and then we'll kind of get to the overall points here. First up is Charlotte. They are consistently in rumors for a lot of different players, but primarily an upgrade, in their front court, trying to get a big guy. Aldridge would make sense there as a guy that could provide them a little bit of a post presence, a veteran presence. This is a team that thinks that they're a playoff team, and they want to make sure they make the postseason this year, and they want to upgrade their roster in order to do so. And they could make something work with like Zeller and, throw some contracts together in exchange for Aldridge. But the more and more you look at it, it's actually kind of difficult for Charlotte to make a move, assuming they don't want to give up a player that they actually really like. They don't have a ton of salaries to use to match a contract of Aldridge's amount outside of Zeller, and they need to throw together a couple more contracts to get there. And unless you're looking at trading away like Miles Bridges or PJ Washington, it gets a little bit more difficult. Now you could do like Zeller and Devontae Graham and package a whole bunch of other random guys together, or potentially get a third team involved. But logistically, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult for LaMarcus Aldridge to end up in Charlotte, in my own personal opinion. We'll see what happens, but I do think that they're on the list. I just think it's going to be, a bit of an issue logistically for them. Next up now, the Boston Celtics, who always have to be mentioned here in any kind of trade scenario, right? And it's pretty clear how this would potentially happen. They would absorb Aldridge into this traded player exception, and then whatever San Antonio wants in return, whatever they think good value is, they can, send back in exchange for Aldridge. If that's a late first-round pick, if that's Romeo Langford, if that's Carson Edwards, whatever the case may be, Boston could send out, any number of contracts or any number of picks in exchange for Aldridge. They could throw another contract in there as well if they want to lower their overall payroll number. But Aldridge would come in and fit really nicely with that group. Could score for them, could provide a bit of a post presence, which is nice for them because pretty much all their paint points come off drives or drop-off passes. So having a real paint player, though Aldridge is, a little bit more perimeter oriented now than he used to be, would be a boost for them, and I think would certainly help them. Would not give them a great boost defensively, which I think is still an issue for them trying to find a good defensive five, but ultimately, still, I think Aldridge would be an interesting addition there in Boston, and one that would be very, very easy for them to bring in if they wanted to make a move, and I don't think it would cost them all that much either. Next up now is a team that continues to come up, whether it was with Blake when he got bought out or any number of players, when they become available for trade. This team is always connected, and it's the Miami Heat. Aldridge serves two purposes here. Obviously, he helps them this year, can provide some spacing in the front court for them, while also being an expiring contract, which does not affect any of their free agency plans, which appear to heavily involve someone like Victor Oladipo this upcoming off season. So if they wanted to, they could package together some expirings that they do have, and throw in a first-round pick or throw in, whoever Kendrick Nunn, whoever they'd like to, in exchange for Aldridge, and they could make something work. Now, if you're a San Antonio fan, you're probably watching this thinking, this isn't great value. This isn't fun at all. We're not getting anything exciting. Well, this last one is at least a little bit more exciting if you're a Spurs fan. So what about Sacramento? Let's just say that San Antonio is willing to take on some money here. Let's just say that they're willing to send out Aldridge and not just get expirings and a young player back. Let's say they do LaMarcus Aldridge and Lonnie Walker to Sacramento in exchange for Buddy Hield, and then if you want to throw some other stuff around that, you can. But that's the core of it. That's the premise. So Buddy Hield goes to San Antonio. He fits well alongside the other guards that they have. There's a bit more of a veteran presence, someone that can come in and provide spacing and shooting right away. They'd certainly be smaller with their guards. Like they'd have, all the young guys and DeRozan and Buddy Hield, assuming DeRozan stays on the roster. But Hield's a little bit younger, provides them really, really good spacing, and is a pretty nice, return in exchange for Aldridge and Lonnie Walker. Meanwhile, Sacramento gets a guard in Lonnie Walker that can grow alongside Halliburton and Fox in a way that Buddy Hield just wouldn't have been able to. And then they get the expiring contract of Aldridge as well, which saves them money rather than having Hield's number on their books for the next couple of years. They get out from under that money by having the Aldridge expiring. So those are the four teams that I would take a look at here, as significant possibilities for LaMarcus Aldridge. Now, having said that, I would not be surprised if this ends up being a buyout type situation. San Antonio seems to be confident that within the next week or so, they're going to be able to move, LaMarcus Aldridge in exchange for something of relative value, whether it's, anything crazy significant, I don't know. I'm calling that into question because he's not very good defensively. Yes, he can make some jump shots, but I don't think any team is incredibly excited about bringing in LaMarcus Aldridge. And if they were, then there never would have been a situation where San Antonio was like, okay, he's played his last game for us, let's move him. You know what I mean? They would have rather kept him or done something or tried to bring him back in the offseason. And so I think ultimately, given the salary that he makes and the relative difficulty of matching that salary, I would not be surprised in any way if LaMarcus Aldridge ends up being bought out and going to, Miami, Dallas, the Lakers, whatever the case may be, as a result of that. Now, there could be some trade value here. The expiring can certainly be a positive thing, but the more and more you look at as you try and find different teams, that number being as high as it is, in the mid-20s, can be pretty difficult to match at certain times. So I would just caution against that if I was talking to a Spurs fan, just tell them I'm not fully convinced this is going to be a trade thing. If he does get moved, it'll probably happen relatively soon. It'll probably be to one of the four teams that I mentioned or some random mystery team. I think LaMarcus Aldridge can provide some value, but if your team does end up with him, I wouldn't expect all-star level LaMarcus Aldridge. Expect a guy that can hit occasional mid-range jump shot. Maybe he can score a little bit for you in the post. He's not going to rebound much. He's not going to defend much. But, depending on the situation, I guess could help your team. Let me know down in the comment section below, would you be excited if your team brought in LaMarcus Aldridge? Whatever your team is, if you're a Celtics fan, if you're a Portland fan, whatever the case may be, would you be excited about bringing LaMarcus Aldridge, or would you be like, oh, okay, that's fine, it's an expiring contract, can make some jump shots, whatever. I think he's a pretty polarizing player at this point in his career. I think some guys, really think that he's hugely impactful, and I just disagree with that at this point in his career. So I'm interested to see what you guys have to say down in the comment section below as we potentially have a LaMarcus Aldridge trade coming up soon. And of course, if it does happen, I'll be taking a look at it here on this channel. We'll kind of evaluate what happened with the trade, or maybe he ends up being bought out, and I'm at least proven half right here. Within the next week or so. But as always, as the trade deadline approaches, we covering everything here on this channel. But yeah, that is going to be the end of the first video of the day, and I thank you guys very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. As I said, I upload twice a day, every single day. You can check out the second video for me coming later today as well, where we talk about a very similar situation, but instead it's with PJ Tucker rather than LaMarcus Aldridge. We'll get into that, and well, just some general Houston Rockets stuff later today as well. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like rating on it. You can check me out at various socials and a Linktree link in the description below. And yeah, hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.